everyone. This is The Office's BRANDCORE. This is actually episode number 5. My name's Stephanie. I'm one of the directors at The Office's. Jeffrey isn't joining me here today, so I'm going to see how I go on my own. So BRANDCORE, if you've been listening in so far, each week we discuss a topic on brands for business. And we get someone to join us because it's so much more interesting to hear how the brands, the graphics, the stories, the content and everything else is applied in the world beyond our studio, which is where all the cool stuff happens. So this week's topic is starting a food brand, and our guest today is Jamie Loveday, the program manager at FoodLab Sydney. Now Jamie's going to introduce FoodLab properly in just a minute, but as you no doubt aware, the whole incubator scene has absolutely exploded in Australia in the last 10 years. There are, dozens, possibly hundreds of incubators. They specialize in all sorts of things, whether it's, technology or fintech or anything else. They all have their own terms and conditions. And of course, universities have their own incubators as well, which we've been involved with for a number of years now. The University of Sydney is where FoodLab is based. We've been involved with them for about 3 years now as mentors. Why do we like being mentors? Well, a lot of our clients are startups or they're in the process of starting up, and some aren't, quite ready to sort of take the full plunge yet. So we love having the opportunity to speak with young businesses at that point where they've got a million questions, they're nearly ready to go. So we've, just got a lot of value from being mentors. But what we're going to do is we're going to invite Jamie to join us. I'm going to have to get my tech assistant. Here's tech assistant is going to turn the camera around just a wee bit. Is that it? So I'm going to...
It was right there. FoodLab's right there.
Oops. There we go. I'm going to send a request from FoodLab. And let's see how quickly this goes. There he is. Hi, Jamie.
Hey. Hello.
How are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can hear you perfectly. We've got our studio lights going here.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Cool. How cool is this?
Yes. So that was easier than I thought. I haven't actually done this before, the pressing of the button bits. I'm just the talker. I'm not really the techie.
I'm the other way around. I'm usually the asker. So this is going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're going to be talking. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, why don't you introduce yourself and FoodLab and tell us what FoodLab does and what your role is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm Jamie. I'm one of the program managers at FoodLab Sydney. We're essentially for-purpose good food business incubator, which is a very fancy way of saying that we're a training program that helps people start food businesses, whether that looks like a product or whether that looks like a service or whether that looks like something else. We exist in the food space, so we've been up since 2019, and since then we've taken about 60 people through the program, very different shapes and sizes, and that's essentially what we do. Take people through like a 3-month program where we talk about all aspects of running a food business or getting involved in food business. So we also connect students to mentors and to our online modules, so our curriculum, where they get to learn how to start a food business.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So, and a lot of your I guess, do you call them, program intakes or participants? Workshop participants. A lot of them have quite a social cause, don't they? So, you know, they're some of them are an actual business model. Others are more like a consultancy, or they sort of work in the you know, education and awareness space. And then there's some great products which you'll hear about as well. And do you want to tell me a little bit more about the types of areas that they're exploring? So, you know, as mentioned, because so many of them are social causes, this isn't like Shark Tank where, you know, it's like a competition and the most effective business wins. It's a lot broader than that. So do you want to tell the listeners about some of the things that your participants are exploring with their food business?
Yeah, of course. So, well, when we started in 2019, we launched from FoodLab Detroit, which is an incubator that started in America, out of this context where there was a lot of social change in the city of Detroit, where a lot of food businesses or even supermarkets were not existing in the city. And so they grew out of this grassroots social movement that was trying to learn how to start food businesses within a city that was essentially deserted. And so when we started, we kind of came out of that social underpinning of, you know, the potential of us as a food business incubator in Sydney, not just to pump out food businesses, that's really great, but we actually want to change the fabric of the food system in Sydney through education, through mentorship, through innovation and entrepreneurship. So, so we are intentional as an incubator that, you know, not only selects people that are kind of trying to change that fabric in the Sydney food system, but also to teach and challenge people about all the issues of good food. So things like, you know, food waste, which is obviously one of the biggest and most well known, but also issues of fair pay and fair treatment of staff, of biodiversity and sustainable agriculture, of so many of those issues in food that is broken in our food system. We're trying to take that and kind of educate people on those issues. So so the people we met. Oh, sorry, I just interrupted you. Go on. No, so the types of food businesses that we'll get is super diverse. Very, like, you know, on one hand we've got food products. So we've got someone doing like Mexican tortillas, like artisan traditional Mexican tortillas, and like Indian dosa. So there's more food products. But then we also have people who want to start, you know, backyard farms on unused residential properties. Got people who want to do a Vietnamese cookbook. So the ideas are very, very wide ranging.
It's interesting. So at your last workshop, I spoke to a business that was thinking of using pest animals. So goats and deer are these pest animals that most of us city folk aren't aware of, but they're causing absolute havoc in the country. And they had a business idea of harvesting those animals sustainably for, you know, and sort of selling them to, like, you know, wild meat butchers. And so that was fascinating. That was a total eye-opener. And then you had someone doing a consultancy where they were using they were making food out of banana peels. So they were actually making a cake out of banana peels, which is something we normally discard. So pretty diverse.
It's really cool. And there's so many different people doing very different things. I could go on forever, but that's the beauty of it. I think when we do narrow the scope of businesses, we lack that diversity, and we lack that, you know, differences in opinion and voices and ideas. So when we do put lots of different people together in this program, we get that real breadth of ideas, and that's a really cool part of it.
And that's what you said is a criteria of selection, isn't it? So obviously you must get inquiries from a lot of potential food businesses, but you've only got room for 20. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about how you kind of do pick that final cohort of 20?
That's the hard part, and that's not all up to me, but I suppose that we are looking for passion as the big point. We try and look for people's passion, because obviously if you're not passionate about what you do, everything else will fall apart when you're, you know, in those early stages. So passion's the biggest thing, but then second to that, we are actively trying to amplify the diversity of voices in the program. So when we talk about diversity, we're talking about people of different backgrounds or minority backgrounds, or even culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, migrants. So people who might not necessarily find support, that's the sort of people that we have a real heart for in the program. So they will often take, you know, precedence. But yeah, if we just come back to whether that idea is viable or not, that's not the issue when they get accepted into the program, because we work through those issues during the program. Like, that's the point of what we do. So passion, number one, and diversity, and trying to, you know, give support to those who might not find it.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, awesome. They can go join Shark Tank later, can't they? If they want, once they've got the viability and they want to sort of get into that more competitive area. But,
100%,
you've got a lot of different mentors on board. So, you know, we're mentors in the branding and storytelling area, of course, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But what are some of the areas these businesses need support? Or these fledgling businesses, I should say. Some of them aren't businesses yet, are they?
Yeah, that's right. Look, we have business owners, and that's the big one. Food business owners, so people who have done it and started it before. We had, I think Abby's watching, but Abby, one of our team members, did a story on Renata from Taoka. A Brazilian crepe food business owner in Sydney. That's one of them. We've got Pepper Sayer and Crumpets by Myrna. Farmers as well. We have farmers who are mentors on the program, and other storytellers. Obviously, food labelers or kind of food consultants we have on the program as well. That diversity of mentors are really cool, but I love having farmers on the program as well, so they can really speak into the issues about, you considered talking to this kind of person.
We've got a listener called a viewer called Garden of Gluttony with us today. That sounds like a garden or a farm business of some sort. So I'd love to get some questions.
Yeah, for sure. I think I have a feeling I know who that is. But hello to you.
Yeah, so we can take questions later. But let's talk. So you've got, mentors that include actual business owners and farmers. And I know there are people that are, more... Here we are.
Sorry, Steph. I think I might have lost you.
And then you have... Yeah. We're back now, though, aren't we? You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
And we've got sort of finance people. But let's talk about branding. So I know a lot of the businesses that come in are already talking about branding. And what are some things that, have come up a lot in the discussions in the past 2 years that are important to get right at the beginning with these young brands?
Yeah, that's a hard one because there's a lot that I could speak into.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of like where to start. But I think the biggest thing that I've found is that when people come into the program, all they want is a logo, and
Yes.
really nice logo and really nice colors and a really nice font. And they just, want to have that perfect before they even know what they're going to sell.
Wow.
Or they even know who their customer might be. So
Yeah.
I think to have that really clear understanding of what exactly your product is going to be and who exactly your customer is going to be, that's probably a big one. But also, I think, people, and a big part of what we do in the program is we get people to consider their value systems, which is not something that people often think about intentionally. But when you start a business, things like what you do and don't stand for, will you be actively trying to seek out local farmers and support local farmers? Or will you be someone who's really big on educating your customers about where their food comes from and that transparency in their supply chain? Or will you be really big on trying to pay fair wages to staff and educate people about how important that might be? Those are value systems that if you don't have that right early at the beginning, then you lack that robust brand identity.
Yeah. No, that's great that they can talk about that there, because, and that's one thing I've sort of really enjoyed about FoodLab is that all the other mentors and also the participants are so receptive to starting it that way, because every now and then, even in our agency, we get queries from businesses who say, oh, I need a set of infographics, or I need a brochure, or I need this or that. And we go, great, show me your brand identity. They go, oh, I don't have one. Here's my logo and here's my color. And we go, well, that's not your brand identity. I don't know anything about whether those materials should look, should they look techy? Should they look warm? Should they have a sense of humor? Should they have no humor? Until you show me your brand foundations first. So yeah, it's really great that you start it that way.
I love that. And I love that, one key thing that you've talked about in the program that we seem to bang on about a lot, and shout out to Beck. I'm sure Beck talks about this too, from the Cultivator, but just that idea that products are people. Should really put a personality to products or to brands. And, we always talk about, if you were to describe your brand to somebody, as a person, as a friend almost, what kind of personality traits would they take on? Would they be caring and loving? Would they be almost rebellious and going against the status quo? Would they be a really snobby and obnoxious and only settling for the best? Or would they be really kind and selfless? So those sorts of personality traits is what we should really be looking at way before we create some kind of color scheme or logo or palette or something like that. So but once you do have a logo, and once you've translated the the abstract personality traits into something that obviously all of that would dictate what kind of fonts you use, what kind of colors you use. But once you have that, we seem to talk a lot about consistency, just as a practical one. And if you have this consistency of, your brand colors or logos at every email signature, every newsletter, every Facebook, post or event or something like that, across every what we would call a touch point, then that's super, super important to do in order to make your brand seem credible and trustworthy. And also to build, I guess, brand recognition. So, in the beginning, no one knows you. And if you've just got a logo, but you don't have a clearly established system of graphics, fonts, or anything else, then all of your touch points are going to end up looking kind of different. And, that kind of tiny but loyal fan base that you're starting to build up, they're going to struggle to recognize you across all those outputs. So,
Yeah, no, it's great that you are, super aware of those things. And when they do get to that point of branding, so we get asked this a lot, and I know that the people that we mentor ask us this too. So let's just put it out there for anyone who's listening. Let's talk about money. What could people, what are people paying? What do you think they should or should not be paying at that very young stage of their business? Do you know, have you heard anything about their branding budgets?
Yeah, so what kind of budgets? That's a hard one to answer because I think everybody would be in a very different boat and coming from very different industries. I mean, some people that join our program might be coming from a corporate finance background, right? Or someone might be a chef and they might want to be breaking away from their chefing background and starting to make a food product or something like that. So everybody comes from a different background, so it's hard to kind of pinpoint an answer there. However, what I would say is most people would not just quit their job altogether and then be running a food business full time. That's not really how it works. So people do have or should have that job on the side whilst they're doing the news. So you would have build up that sort of asset base, don't you? So a great kind of a ballpark figure that we were told recently is whatever your projected revenue is for the first year, or take those profits, 20% of those profits, and that's your branding budget. So if you think you're going to make a $10,000 profit in the first year, well, then your branding budget's $2,000. And so that means, as a lot of the participants in this group have done, a lot of them, do their first bits of branding on their own, or, one group that we mentors has a talented wife or partner, and I believe she did the branding. That's for Thanks Dal. So that's right.
Yeah.
What I would encourage. I would encourage people, like, we do talk about the concept of an MVP, and I'm not sure how much you guys talk about this, but it's that idea of a minimum viable product. So, the cheapest, simplest, most effective beginning or starting place. That's called an MVP.
Yes.
And often, that's what we do say. Like, if you can find somebody who really has, there's love hearts everywhere. I love this.
I can't figure out who's sending them.
We love you too. But if you can find some MVP ways to start your business, whether that is through a friend who is a designer or you happen to be handy on Canva, even just to give some rough idea of where you want to go, that's a really great starting point. It's so much better starting that way than just having no idea and then thinking that you need to rely on, other people to kind of get things. But I think that is a really great tip about 20%. Yeah, it is a good one. And of course, not all startups are equal, right? There are startups that launch with $2 million of seed funding in place, and then there are startups launching from their garage. But in an ideal world, you've got some kind of work background already. You've saved a little bit of cash, and you actually do have to pump that into the business in the first year, along with working your butt off and all those long days and minimal sleep. But once you've and the thing to know is that if you've got your vision, your values, your brand story, your messaging pillars thought out, whatever logo or brand identity you start with, you can expect that to evolve over time. So a lot of clients that come to see us are at that stage where they've kind of bootstrapped for 2 to 5 years with a kind of cobbled together brand identity. They've really worked on refining their product, and that is actually the important thing to do. Branding's great, but you can't
great branding will not sell a crap product, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, in those early years, you have to make sure the product's amazing, make sure the fan base is really strong, and then you can come and sort of amplify this equity that you've got built in the brand with, you know, more compelling or more sophisticated materials. So,
yeah. That reminds me of a story, and that's all too often what we see is like this idea that I have to get everything that looks perfect
yes,
before I launch, you know, my product, and then in doing so, you stop talking to customers or, you know, talking to people who actually like your food and want to improve your food with you. But
yeah,
we talked about with the last cohort, and I just see, Anna's on. Hey, Anna. In the last cohort with Anna, we were talking about this sushi pizza fusion joint that launched in Sydney maybe a decade ago or something like that. And so sushi on pizza, that's the idea. And when they went broke, like really, really broke, they blamed it on everything but their
the product,
you know, their idea. They blamed it on like staff, and they blamed it on rents, and they blamed it on all these other things. And
sushi
they didn't
on
blame
pizza.
it. Yeah, they didn't blame it on the fact that maybe sushi pizza isn't really what, you know, people might like to eat. And so it's just that idea. It's just that idea of like, yeah, maybe we should be testing our idea right from the get-go and speaking to customers before we get that really flashy logo and all that.
Very true. Yeah. And the danger is that if you ask in your personal circles, everyone's going to say, yeah, that's a great idea, because it's probably at a barbecue and everyone's had a couple of drinks already. But it's the market. That's where it really, the market will not lie about whether they like your product or not.
Yeah, that's right. Charles Darwin decides who gets to stay alive in business.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Don't forget Charles Darwin.
That's right. Yeah.
And speaking of survival, that kind of brings us to our next question, which is, you know, a lot of people love cooking, and you know, because we do the branding for a lot of food brands, so we follow a lot of them online, and we stalk a lot of others that aren't online. And, you know, people love cooking. People are passionate about food, but that doesn't necessarily make them a good business, a strong business. So, you know, what is the secret of success? Let's say someone's come through FoodLab, they've got a great idea, they're getting some traction. You know, if we would continue that Charles Darwin metaphor, what would make them grow and what might make them kind of fizzle?
I think that's a very good question, and there could be so many different answers to this, but the biggest thing I would say is it's all about, it's got, you know, nothing to do with how good your product is. It's actually about being teachable, I think. So if there's an entrepreneur who joins the program, if I see, I can notice even in the first few weeks, if they're teachable, if they're willing to, you know, take criticism or take feedback from customers or change what they're doing based on what other people, you know, feedback and input might be, those are the people that will probably be more successful.
Yeah, that's actually, really good point. I think you were online. Yeah, go on. Otherwise, what?
Otherwise, you run into all sorts of roadblocks that are solely put on yourself. You know what I mean? So you just kind of either running yourself into burnout, or you're not listening to feedback, so your product might not actually reach the place that it should based on, you know, customer feedback, or you just have this really strong idea of what it's going to look like and you're not willing to change that's going to be. All of that can be stemmed from just being teachable, which is really hard to teach someone to be teachable.
But I love that. That's a really simple mantra. Be teachable. That's the ticket to success. Yeah, that's so strong. Actually, you were online a couple of weeks ago when we interviewed Pepe from Pepe Sayer, and he kind of referred to that a lot too. So, you know, he felt that the first couple of years of his product were, you know, nowhere near what it is now, and they just kept asking questions and kept learning from their mistakes. So, probably we see that in practice. And speaking of success, so I know because you're not sort of a traditional incubator in the sense that, you know, they have to be worth a certain amount of dollars before they leave FoodLab, you know, so it's not quite like that. But what are some kind of, I guess, success stories for the rest of us who are listening that we can kind of go out and find them on social media and pay attention to what they're doing? That have come through FoodLab, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll start by saying Anna, who is currently watching, she's a success story.
Awesome.
Yeah, look, I would say anyone who is teachable throughout the program is a success story. But, you know, it's hard within business, you know, to go through a 3-month program and to come out the other side. You know, we're not expecting them to be a fully fledged business at that point. However, people who do come through the program that are teachable and that have listened to feedback and that have really begun to flesh out what their idea will look like. And Anna is a really great example. She's doing a Filipino market in Sydney that hasn't existed before, that really celebrates Filipino culture and Filipino food. And she's been one that's been really teachable. We've had someone in the first year, Delectio, who we did a story on the other week, and they're selling their plant-based cheeses all through Harris Farms and IGA. We've had, I think, Blanca was just on the call before, and Blanca does like artisan tortillas, and she did a catering event the other week for FoodLab, actually, with an event that we did the other day, and she's just got this really beautiful product that I'm not sure if you've ever had proper, you know, Mexican tortillas, but that actually tastes like it, and really hard to find that in Australia.
Hard to come by.
Yeah, for sure. And we've got, you know, Sarah Anderson, just saying things that come to my head. Sarah is doing a beautiful backyard market garden through a community-supported agriculture scheme down in the Illawarra. And she's doing really, really well at the moment. She's just been featured on Permaculture News recently. So, yeah, look, I think sometimes people will finish the program at FoodLab and they'll go, actually, I realize after listening to all these guest speakers and talking to mentors how much work goes into being, you know, a food business owner, or how much I'm going to have to do to get this off the ground. I actually don't think that I have that kind of passion, or I don't think that I want to do that. And to us, that is totally fine, because you know, we have, in essentially, we have saved them however many hours worth of work, or however many thousands of dollars worth of equipment that they invested into the business. So,
which they would have borrowed from family and friends, and they would have like embroiled, you know, 10 or 20 other people into the journey, and then it would have fizzled. So,
100%.
To realize at that point that it's not for them is very powerful.
Exactly. And that's, you know, we would measure success as well. Or even we would say to people, you know, it's actually might be really good to actually get some work experience in this kind of business, which is really similar to what you want to do for a couple of years before you actually go and launch, just to observe and see what they're doing. Yeah. And that is really successful too, because all of a sudden they have spent 1 or 2 years really understanding what this business is doing wrong and what they could be doing right or better. And that is really a success story as well.
Yeah, of course.
So quite a few people doing that.
Be able to take that and do so much with it. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jamie. And I believe some applications are open as we speak for another cohort to join FoodLab. So can you tell us who you're looking for and any kind of basic criteria?
Yes, that's right. So we've got applications open for cohort 6, which is crazy. So we do 2 cohorts per year, and we started in 2019. So we're up to the 6th cohort now. So applications are open for that, for cohort 6, and they will close, I believe, at the end of next month in June. So the 25th of June, I believe, is when applications.
Cool.
So we don't have a particular type of food business in mind. Any food business idea, whether that's a product, a service, or even, you know, production, so farming or something like that. You know, any idea in food is great. We're looking for passion. We're looking for people to be teachable as well, and we're also to amplify diversity in our food system in Sydney. So yeah, if any of those tick the box, then then that's who we'd love to see in the program.
And did you say that people don't have to be a current member of the Sydney University of Sydney community of the undergraduate or the other? Yeah, great. No, so it's completely open.
Completely open. That's right. Fantastic. Completely open. So anyone who lives in the Greater Sydney area would be the perfect person for the program. Particularly if you live in the City of Sydney area, that would be even better, but Greater Sydney, that works just fine. Yeah.
Yes, of course. And then when they join, they get all of your expertise plus all of your amazing colleagues, all the mentors. There's, you know, quite a few of us. There's like 20 or 30 of us. So me, us, the officers, you know, with the branding and communications, but there's, you know, journalists and food writers and business owners and restaurant owners and all sorts of people that they can learn from. So it's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It's going to be an intense program. So they got to, you know, tie their shoelaces up and get their fingers dirty. But it's going to be super rewarding. So we're really looking forward to meeting everybody and to starting that.
Ooh. How can people get in touch with you, Jamie?
Sure. Well, if you go to our link in the bio, then you can check out our website and learn a little bit more about, you know, the program and who we are and what we do and all of the eligibility requirements and the dates and all that sort of stuff. But if you really like, you know, the FoodLab program, you can always just send us a message on LinkedIn and say, hey.
Yeah, cool. That sounds great. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Jamie. So I'm going to stay online a little bit longer just to wrap up. But yeah, great to see you. And I look forward. We look forward to being part of the next cohort at FoodLab.
No worries, Stephanie. Thanks so much for being a mentor on the program. We love you guys, all of us.
Thank you so much. We love being involved.
Cool. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye. And in the meantime, have a great week. Hopefully see you again another time.